Let me just talk my head. I think it's 22 minutes before the top of the hour. So on Saturday, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, will receive the Africa Peace Award on behalf of the African Union in Durban. The award is the brainchild of the African Centre for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, or ACCORD. The award recognises individuals, communities and nations who respect human rights, settle conflicts peacefully and ensure the good governance of public affairs. Well, we're very, very honoured to have with us in studio Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma herself. It's so lovely to have you and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you.
Good. When they told me that we've got a VVIP coming in this morning, I got exceptionally excited to find out that it was you that we were hosting. Because it really is an honour to have you here. And I imagine being a recipient of an award like this does mean a lot to you.
Yes, it does mean a lot, not just to me, but to the organization, because the organization has done a lot to try and manage conflicts, make sure that they are peacefully resolved. And it's not just us now, it's a culture that has grown in the African Union and the OAU.
Yeah, because not only is it recognising the work of the AU, it's also recognising the work of the predecessor, the OAU. That really, when it did have its mandate, it was securing Africa's freedom and liberation from colonialism and apartheid.
Yes.
Where are we? Where are we at with those mandates?
Well, I think really the vast majority of countries in Africa have been decolonized. They are free, except Western Sahara. The rest are free. But as you would know, their mandate was twofold. One, it was to free countries from colonialism and apartheid, but also to struggle for economic independence. And I think that's where we are now, trying to get the continent to move towards prosperity, towards peace, integration, clearly to get citizens to play a much greater role in the affairs of the organization and to have much more influence globally. That's where we're moving to. So now the struggle is really about economics, about fighting poverty, about fighting underdevelopment.
And fighting many other issues, because we're seeing things that are happening on the continent that really are devastating for the citizens in this country. I mean, we can take it country by country, but let's start off with Nigeria and the attacks that have happened this week in Nigeria, with the prominence of Boko Haram. What is the African Union doing to combat this?
Well, first let me express my condolences and sympathies to those who lost loved ones in the hands of Boko Haram in Nigeria. It is clear that Boko Haram needs a much more concerted effort. I think part of the problem was it started and the Nigerians looked at it as a Nigerian problem until it started venturing out to neighboring countries. It was only then that the AU, in the context of the Lake Chad Basin countries, got mobilized to fight Boko Haram. It's going to need a much stronger effort from Nigeria itself, but also from the neighboring countries who have been doing a lot, like Chad, like Cameroon, even Niger. But it's not an African problem only. It's a global problem. We see such things happening in the rest of the world. So I think beyond Africa, we need to also globally look at this matter collectively.
Yeah, we certainly do. And I mean, there's a lot of attention focused on ISIS and the work of them and the attacks that they're doing. But we're seeing that, in actual fact, Boko Haram is creating more devastation. It's killing more people than ISIS. And, there seems to be this concerted effort to try and stamp them out. And yet, we do need a bigger effort to try and get rid of Boko Haram. But it always seems that we turn to the United Nations as opposed to the African Union. How does that make you feel when issues on the continent need to be dealt at another level?
Well, I think we have to understand how the architect of the world is constructed. The Security Council of the United Nations is responsible for global peace wherever in the world. And that's part of the reason that Africa has been complaining that it's not represented in a body that is looking after peace across the world. But if you look at African conflicts, there is no African conflict, for instance, that really, other than terrorism, which is a different kind of war, there is no conflict in Africa that waits for the United Nations without any effort. You don't see what's going on across other regions where wars rage for years without any intervention from the regional organizations, without intervention from the UN, as you have seen in other countries like Syria. In Africa, limited as our means are, when there is a conflict, we try and manage it whilst the UN is still wrangling and debating about what to do.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to take a very quick break here on the program, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. We'll look at other issues of conflicts within the continent, and also continue this conversation with the chairman of the African Union, our very own Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Stay tuned.